What would you do if stopping to help a stranger on a stormy night could cost you everything? One man's choice changed his life in ways he never expected. It was pouring rain on a Tuesday evening, and Jake had just wrapped up a long shift at the hardware store. All he wanted was to get home, change into dry clothes, and enjoy a warm meal. As he pulled onto the narrow road leading out of town, something unusual caught his eye. A car stranded on the side of the road with its hazard lights flashing. Jake's first thought was to drive past. He was cold, tired, and it wasn't his problem. But something made him hesitate. What if the driver needed serious help? Jake sighed and glanced at the clock on his dashboard. It was already past 8 p.m. The rain was relentless, hammering against his windshield. Visibility was poor, and the road was mostly deserted. Not my problem, he muttered to himself, inching forward. But guilt gnawed at him. What if it was someone hurt or stranded in the middle of nowhere? He knew these back roads well. There wouldn't be much help coming anytime soon. With a heavy breath, he flicked on his blinker and pulled over a few feet ahead of the car. The hazard lights flickered weakly as he approached. The vehicle was an older sedan, its front bumper slightly dented, with smoke rising faintly from under the hood. Jake grabbed his flashlight and stepped out, grimacing as the cold rain soaked through his jacket almost instantly. As he neared the driver's side, the window rolled down slowly, revealing a man in his late 30s with a worried expression. Car broke down. I think it's the engine, the man said, his voice strained. Jake nodded, glancing at the engine. Mind if I take a look? Please, the stranger said, shivering. Jake popped the hood and shone his flashlight over the engine. It didn't take long to spot the problem. A loose belt and some overheating issues. You're not going anywhere without a tow, Jake said grimly. Phone signal's pretty bad out here, too. You stranded long? About an hour, the man admitted. Name's Mark, by the way. Jake, he replied. Tell you what, there's a gas station about 10 miles up. I can give you a ride there if you don't mind waiting out the rain with me. Mark hesitated before nodding. I'd really appreciate that. I didn't think anyone would stop. Jake shrugged. Most wouldn't. But I've been stuck before. I know what it's like. They both got into Jake's truck, shaking off the rain. As Jake started driving, neither of them knew that this simple act of kindness was about to set off a chain of events that would challenge everything Jake thought he knew about loyalty, courage, and the cost of doing the right thing. The truck rumbled down the slick road, windshield wipers struggling to keep up with the relentless rain. Mark sat quietly in the passenger seat, rubbing his hands together for warmth. Rough night, Jake said, trying to break the silence. You could say that, Mark replied with a weak smile. I was on my way back from a job interview. Guess I won't be getting that call back now. Jake glanced at him. Tough luck. What kind of work are you looking for? Sales, mostly. Lost my last job when the company downsized. Mark sighed. Been a rough few months, honestly. Jake nodded thoughtfully. I get it. Times are hard for everyone. As they approached a sharp bend in the road, Jake's headlights caught something unexpected. Another car speeding toward them, weaving dangerously across the slick pavement. Hold on, Jake shouted, gripping the wheel. The oncoming car swerved at the last second, narrowly avoiding a collision. Jake's truck skidded, but held steady as he guided it back into the right lane. Maniac, Jake muttered, heart racing. Mark let out a shaky breath. That was close. Jake nodded, keeping his eyes on the road. Too close. A few minutes later, they pulled into the dimly lit gas station. The rain had eased into a steady drizzle. Jake parked near the convenience store entrance and turned to Mark. You should be able to call for a tow from here, Jake said. Mark hesitated. Look, I really appreciate this. Let me buy you a coffee or something. Jake waved him off. No need. Just glad I could help. As Mark opened the door to get out, something caught Jake's eye. A black SUV pulling into the station. Its tinted windows made it impossible to see who was inside, but there was something about the way it lingered near the pumps that set Jake on edge. Mark noticed it too. His expression darkened. I need to go. Now. What? Jake frowned. What's going on? No time to explain, Mark said urgently. Can you get me out of here? Please. Jake's instinct screamed at him to say no, but the desperation in Mark's voice was impossible to ignore. Against his better judgment, he nodded. Get back in, Jake said firmly, starting the engine. As they pulled away from the gas station, the black SUV followed. You want to tell me what's going on? Jake demanded. Mark's jaw tightened. I messed up, okay? I owe some people money. They've been after me for weeks. Jake's grip on the wheel tightened. Great. So now they're after me too. I didn't mean to drag you into this, Mark said. But if they catch up to us, it won't end well. Jake's mind raced. He could turn back, drop Mark off, and wash his hands of the whole mess. But something inside him wouldn't let him do it. We'll lose them, Jake said, determination hardening his voice. He pressed down on the gas, the truck picking up speed as they headed toward the back roads. The chase was on. The rain picked up again, pounding against the windshield as Jake's truck tore down the winding back roads. The black SUV stayed close behind, its headlights cutting through the darkness like twin beams of menace. Hang on, Jake warned, gripping the wheel tightly as the truck skidded around a sharp curve. Mark clutched the door handle, his face pale. You sure you know these roads? Like the back of my hand, Jake said through clenched teeth. The narrow dirt path was slick with mud, making it harder to control the vehicle. But Jake had driven this route countless times while hauling supplies. He knew every twist and turn. Why do these guys care so much about a debt? Jake demanded over the roar of the engine. It's more than just money, Mark admitted. I saw something I wasn't supposed to, illegal deals, people getting hurt. I tried to walk away, but they weren't having it. Jake shook his head. You really know how to pick your fights, huh? Tell me about it, Mark muttered. The SUV closed the gap, its bumper nearly touching the back of Jake's truck. Suddenly, the SUV swerved, trying to force them off the road. Jake yanked the wheel to the right, narrowly avoiding a ditch. The truck jolted violently, but stayed on course. They're not giving up, Mark said, panic creeping into his voice. Neither am I, Jake shot back. Up ahead, Jake spotted an old service road branching off into the woods. It was risky, muddy, and barely maintained, but it might be their only shot at losing the SUV. Hold tight, Jake warned. Without hesitation, he veered onto the service road, the truck bouncing over rocks and potholes. Branches scraped against the sides as they plunged deeper into the forest. The SUV hesitated at the turn but followed, its tires kicking up a spray of mud. Come on, Jake muttered under his breath, eyes scanning for an opening. Suddenly, he spotted a narrow trail that led down a steep embankment. It was barely wide enough for the truck, but it was their best chance. We're going down, Jake said. You're insane, Mark shouted. Probably, Jake admitted, steering the truck onto the trail. The truck lurched and slid, but Jake kept it under control. The SUV tried to follow but skidded sideways, its wheels sinking into the mud. They're stuck, Mark exclaimed. Jake didn't slow down until they reached the bottom of the embankment, the SUV's headlights disappearing behind them. Breathing heavily, Jake finally brought the truck to a stop. The only sounds were the rain and their ragged breathing. We lost them, Jake said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through his veins. Mark leaned back against the seat, relief washing over him. I owe you, man. Big time. You owe a lot of people, it seems, Jake said dryly. Mark chuckled weakly. Fair point. Jake glanced at him. So what now? You gonna keep running? Mark's expression turned serious. No, I'm done running. I need to face this and make it right. Jake nodded. Good. But first, we're getting you someplace safe. As they drove back toward town, the danger had passed, but the weight of the experience lingered. The rain had finally stopped by the time Jake's truck rolled back onto the main road. The sky was still dark, but the tension had lifted. Mark sat quietly, staring out the window as if lost in thought. You got a plan? Jake asked, breaking the silence. Yeah, Mark said after a moment. I need to go to the police. These guys won't stop unless I put everything out in the open. It's risky, but I'm out of options. Jake nodded. Smart move. But you'll need proof if you want them to take you seriously. Mark reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. I've got enough on here to blow their whole operation wide open. It's just, I've been too scared to use it. Well, looks like tonight gave you a reason to stop being scared, Jake said, his tone firm but understanding. Mark glanced over at him. Why'd you do it, Jake? You could have just left me at the gas station. Jake sighed. I guess I know what it's like to need a hand when things go south. My old man walked out on us when I was a kid, left my mom to raise me and my brother alone. We had some rough times, but there were always folks who helped us out when we needed it most. Guess I'm just paying it forward. Mark nodded thoughtfully. Well, I won't forget this. Ever. They pulled into a diner parking lot on the edge of town. A police station was just a block away. Jake parked the truck and turned off the engine. You sure about this? Jake asked. Yeah, Mark said, steeling himself. It's time to do the right thing. Jake extended his hand. Good luck, Mark. Mark shook it firmly. Thanks, Jake. For everything. As Mark walked toward the police station, Jake watched him go, a sense of calm settling over him. Sometimes doing the right thing was messy and risky, but it was always worth it. He started the truck and drove off, knowing that tonight had changed both of their lives in ways they'd never forget. Sometimes life gives us a choice. Look the other way or step up and help. Doing the right thing isn't always easy. It can come with risks and challenges. But true character is built in those moments when we choose courage over comfort. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Brotherhood Tales for more real-life stories with powerful life lessons. And remember, sometimes a small act of kindness can change a life forever.